boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of Prime Video's new action comedy spy thriller, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which stars Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. This is, I don't know if I could say loosely based on the 2005 film Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which starred Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. But I guess it is in a way. But if you go into this show expecting a remake or kind of a adaptation of that particular film, this isn't it. You know, it is inspired, of course, by that film, but not a beat by beat remake of that film. This show is created by Donald Glover and Francesca Sloan, and these two are reteaming after working together on Atlanta and Swarm just from this past year. And this show, I must say, caught me by complete surprise as far as the quality and the writing and the direction and the action. Very, very well made show, and it really shouldn't have caught me by surprise, being as though I am a huge fan of Atlanta, an even bigger fan of Swarm and Donald Glover as well. This is a magnificent show. Honestly, it has everything you would want in a TV show: the action, the comedy, the relationship turmoil. You know, this is really a therapeutic show for married couples. It has that vibe, you know what I'm saying? It just take you through the many stages of a young couple who recently got married or recently got together, and I loved it for that point. What 2005 film didn't do, you really didn't get to know Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's characters so much. You knew to an extent, but as far as their relationship and them falling in love, you didn't get that. You just got a speed through flash type situation where poof, they got married, you know, and insanity and ensued from there. This show builds on that relationship. You feel this couple fall in love with each other, even though they were paired up by the company, you know, as these spies who, I guess, work as tandem in this little spy organization. And I thought that was very smart, very unique. And of course, you knew they were going to fall in love. You knew that before you even clicked on it. But, you know, to go on that journey with this couple and legitimately see them fall in love with each other was exciting. And yet and still, in the midst of all that, they're spies. They're they're on these missions, and insanity is happening all around them. But in spite of all that, they still manage to have a relationship with one another. And the chemistry between Donald Glover and Maya Erskine was magnificent. Initially, it was going to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge in the role of Jane Smith, and she left because of creative differences between her and Donald Glover. And when I heard that, I was kind of bummed out by that because I like Phoebe Waller-Bridges, and I would love to have seen her and Donald Glover together on screen. They were together kind of in the Han Solo film, you know, Solo, the prequel, which starred Donald Glover, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge was the voice of the droid that quote unquote Lando loves in that film. And so it would have been good to see that relationship play out in live action, but unfortunately it didn't work out. But Maya Erskine, I didn't know anything about her prior to this show, and so I was kind of going into this blind, but I really enjoyed her. Really enjoyed her performance, and I love the back and forth between her and Donald Glover in this show. Uh, my question is, where has she been hiding? Why haven't she popped up in other things? You know what I'm saying? Bigger films or TV shows. Now she's been in things. I had to research her to find out, but she's been in other things. But this is my first time experiencing her as an actress, and I enjoyed her. You know, she's funny. She is intense. She has all the attributes, and that's why I can't wait to see her in more. You know, going forward. At least I hope that she pops up in more because she did an excellent job. Donald Glover always does great. Donald Glover is another one I wish would do more. I really do. I wish Donald Glover would do more because he is such a good actor. He is funny. I mean, just watch any episode of Community. You know, watch any episode of Atlanta, and you can see his range. You know how he can go from kind of silly comedy to serious drama and take the persona of another individual. What was the name of that episode? Teddy Perkins? Oh, Pickens? I forgot the name now, but it was a very excellent episode. And actually, it took me two times to watch that episode to realize that that was Donald Glover in that role. But in any event, the dude is amazing. His writing, even his direction. He directed the last episode of this season. Of the 8 episodes that we got, he directed the last one, and he's an awesome director. He directed a couple of episodes of Atlanta. He directed a couple of episodes of Swarm and other series as well. And I must say, he needs to do more as well. He he is so talented, and his childish Gambino rap personality is awesome as well. The dude is just talented, and in this show, once again, he shows his range, how he can be funny, serious, even handle the action in this not episode, but in this show. I mean, really good stuff, man. It is, and it isn't overblown action. You know, it isn't stuff blowing up just for blowing up sake. It isn't shootouts just for shootout sake. You know, everything follows the story or drives the story forward. And that is excellent writing. As I mentioned, there are 8 episodes here, and each episode is its own quote unquote mission, you know, that this couple has to go through. Yet with all 8 episodes, they are linked together. It's one continuous story that follows this quote unquote married couple and their trials and tribulations as a married couple. And that is the core of this show. You know, all the shoot 'em up, bang bang stuff. That's icing on the cake. That's lanyap, as we would say down here in New Orleans. But the core of this show is the relationship between John and Jane Smith. We get some real good co-stars. Oh, good. I'll go as far to say awesome co-stars or guest stars on this show. You get Alexander Skarsgård, Paul Dano, John Turturro, Billy Campbell, Parker Posey, Ron Perlman pops up in this mug. Michaela Cole is in here. Sarah Paulson is in here. I mean, so many awesome actors and actresses who just pop up in an episode or two just to be there, you know, just to support this show in small parts that helps our protagonists in this show move forward. They're there for a variety of reasons, whether it's for comedy relief or for a deeper plot element in an episode, or you know, to push the story along. They're there to do their job and leave. You know, nobody is there to overshadow our heroes. But to touch back in on our couple storyline through here, the marriage storyline through here, you know, it's good writing, good acting, good direction when you can look at these two who fell in love after they got married. You know, even though that's how it all came together. Uh, when you can see elements of your own marriage, if you're married or in a relationship, period, a long lasting relationship, uh, and you can see elements of it in these in these two characters, you know that they're doing a really good job, and they did a really good job. Uh, I can see elements of my marriage in there, and it made it that made it even better. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Yep, that's true. That's a fact. Stuff like that, you know. And isn't that the goal of any TV show or movie? You know, you want to connect with your characters. If you can't connect with your characters or sympathize with your characters, it don't make sense watching the movie or the TV show. It gets boring real quick, uninteresting real quick, and you lose interest. But here, never lose interest with these two characters. You want them to win, and I think this show was a win. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which stars Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, gets a letter grade of an A minus. I thought it was a well made show. And Donald Glover is he's knocked it out the park. He's batting 100 with me. I haven't watched a Donald Glover show and been disappointed yet. I mean, I'm even counting Community. And my daughter got me hooked on Community. I never watched it in its original run on NBC, but my daughter was obsessed with it when it was on Netflix and watched it all day long. So I had no choice but to watch it. And after 2 or 3 episodes in, the choice was pretty easy. I was excited to watch it, and it was such a funny show. Atlanta, one of my favorite shows to come out in the last 10 years, and this show can be added to the list. I highly recommend Mr. and Mrs. Smith, currently on Prime Video. All 8 episodes are there for your delight. I would like to know if you checked out Mr. and Mrs. Smith this weekend, or are you loyal to the 2005 film starring Brangelina, uh, and you don't want to spoil it by watching this show? I would tell you this, and I'm saying this with my whole chest. This show outperforms or outdoes that movie, and I love the movie. I enjoyed the movie. I watched the movie recently. In fact, maybe about a month ago, it was on TV, and I stopped and watched. I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and so when they announced this show, I was all in, and I would say this show does a better job telling a story than the movie did. But that's just my opinion. I would like to know yours. You can email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look me up on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Search for the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Subscribe and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Can't wait to speak to you again on the next go around. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love one another. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.